Colonizing space, a dream or a curse? The pros and cons of becoming a multi-planet species.
If this capsule history of our progress teaches us anything, it is that man in his quest for knowledge and progress is determined and cannot be deterred. There is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet. Its hazards are hostile to us all. Its conquest deserves the best of all mankind.
In his famous moon speech from 1962, Kennedy declared the aspiration of the exploration of space. Today, this aspiration can become a reality. With the advancement of technology, traveling to neighboring planets is becoming a real possibility. For perspective, it took Apollo 11 3 days, 3 hours and 49 minutes to reach the moon. Nowadays, a trip to the moon can be done in 8.5 hours. Although Kennedy declared and technology enables, the question is, should we colonize space or better leave it to science and or fiction? If any planet would be the first candidate for colonization, it is Mars. This given its location next to Earth and characteristics similar to our planet. The seasons, the polar ice caps, the day length and the existence of water. But we couldn't live on Mars without complex life support measures and artificial environments, since there are some notable differences with Earth. The low temperatures of -60 degrees Celsius, the thin atmosphere which contains 96% carbon dioxide and only 0.13% oxygen, radiation, and significantly lower gravity. No wonder that until now only satellites and robotic cars have explored Mars. To reach Mars, however, is also quite complicated. The best moment to depart is when Earth is overtaking Mars in its orbit around the Sun. Both Earth and Mars are then relatively close to each other. This happens every 26 months. But as travel time to Mars is 7 months, you have to wait another 19 months before you can return. For this research, let's assume all technical difficulties to reach and settle on any planet are met. Would my generation be ready to colonize, for instance, Mars, and become a multi-planet species? Do you think colonizing Mars is a dream or a curse?
Both, actually. I think it's a dream because I don't think it is possible to achieve it currently, but it is also a curse because people are getting so obsessed about it that they're forgetting that we have a planet to take care of here today.
I believe that colonizing Mars is a great dream that we have.
Well, I believe it's a dream for humanity to go out into our solar system, to eventually expand humanity, to bring it forward to new horizons. So I believe it's always been a dream.
If all technical difficulties were met, would you go and live on Mars?
Yes. If it was possible to go to Mars, I think I would go.
It truly does depend on, who's there, what is available, what is my purpose there. But all in all, if I was, with the people I loved, my family, and if I had, if my sustainable living was guaranteed, then yeah, why not? It's a new planet, it's a new adventure.
I would go to Mars if I could to just visit it, but I wouldn't want to leave it, I wouldn't want to leave Earth behind for the rest of my life because it's such a different environment.
Thus, we can conclude from this that not many are willing to go unconditionally. Some even go so far as to say that we should fix problems on this planet before we start colonizing a new one. To answer the question if we should colonize space in general, and Mars as an example, what are the pros of colonizing space? First of all, simply to explore. Humans have always been fascinated by the unknown. That is how Christopher Columbus discovered the New World, the Americas, in 1492. As Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, one of the founding fathers of rocketry and astronautics, once said, "The Earth is the cradle of humanity, but one cannot live in the cradle forever." Secondly, it will trigger new inventions and discoveries. For example, satellites have revolutionized global communications and navigation. The CAT scanner, originally developed to find imperfections in space components, or the computer microchip, descend from integrated circuits used in the Apollo guidance computer. Insulation. Home insulation uses reflective material that provides protection for spacecraft from radiation. And the joystick, first used on the Apollo lunar rover. Another famous spin-off is the algorithm that was developed to better extract information from the first blurry pictures taken by NASA's Hubble Space Telescope. When the algorithm was occasionally shared with a medical doctor, he used it to successfully detect early-stage breast cancer on X-rays. And in the future, we might find new technologies to make Earth more sustainable. Thirdly, to ensure the survival of mankind. If you listen to the famous scientist Stephen Hawking, to the well-known astronaut Tim Peake, or to the successful businessman Elon Musk, they will all tell us that we as human beings have to set up a settlement on a different planet to ensure the survival of our species. Hawking believes that life on Earth is at an ever-increasing risk of being wiped out by disasters such as a sudden nuclear war, a genetically engineered virus, or the destruction of Earth by collision with an asteroid. Hawking believes that humans will not survive another 1,000 years on fragile Earth. To him, the human race has no future if we don't go to space. The extinction of mankind, just like the dinosaurs that roamed Earth for 165 million years, and now can only be retrieved as fossils. As space scientist Carl Sagan once observed, the dinosaurs died out because they did not have a space program. A fourth reason is economic expansion. There is strong evidence Mars, for instance, contains valuable minerals for mining. This could become economically very attractive. But also a growing space exploration will bring more jobs in science and technology, aerospace, and further commercial expansion into space. There will be potential opportunities for companies to provide crew and cargo transportation services, telecommunication, and navigation systems, plus other capabilities. There are also potential opportunities in commercial space tourism, as personal space flights around the moon, or Earth orbiting space hotels, and one-way excursions to Mars. Lastly, the colonization of any planet in itself will obviously create new jobs. Setting up a self-sustaining colony will mean setting up a new civilization with a government, a civil service, research labs, hospitals, schools, shops, and so on. A fifth reason is a diplomatic one, bringing countries together by collaborating in the colonization of space. The idea of an international collaboration in space was developed in the early 1980s, after years of US and Soviet competition in space during the Cold War, called the Space Race. It was made official by Ronald Reagan in his United States State of the Union speech in 1984. Freedom was the first name of the space station to be, as it would serve as a symbol of unity of the Western world in the Cold War. I quote, "We can follow our dreams to distant stars, living and working in space for peaceful economic and scientific gain." Europe, Canada, and Japan immediately responded to Reagan's invitation, and soon after the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia joined as well. This also led to the creation of the International Space Station, the ISS, a partnership between international space agencies that developed the largest space station ever built in space, which continues to be assembled in orbit. As on Earth, we have difficulty in collaboration and keeping peace between nations. ISS shows that the exploration of space can unite nations in a peaceful manner. What are the cons of colonizing another planet? First of all, the effects of colonizing a planet. The colonization of another planet will be fairly different from the colonizations we have done so far. Colonization means that people settle and establish a colony on new territory. Usually, the settlers dominate the original inhabitants, imposing their culture and political power from their homeland. So far, we have not found any evidence of inhabitants or human life on Mars or other planets. Therefore, we will not impose ourselves on local people and their culture as we have done in colonies before, but we will still impose ourselves on the surroundings and the nature and on microorganisms that might live out there. We will make changes to this unspoiled planet that is much older than Earth. Not only will we change the landscape by building on it or digging in it, but also influence the biosystem, since we will bring along our own microorganisms such as bacteria and fungi.
This process is called terraforming, and it means we will deliberately start changing the Martian climate and surface by making large areas of the environment hospitable to humans, without radiation, freezing temperatures, and with oxygen and water. Another activity that will have a huge impact on the Martian environment is mining. Mining will be an economic opportunity for the settlers, but it involves excavation of the Martian surface and underground.
This brings us to the second challenge, the legal framework that exists regarding the outer space in general, and Mars in particular. Space is for the largest part regulated by the international law. The Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, set up by the United Nations in 1959 to govern the exploration and use of space for the benefit of all humanity. For peace, security and development, the committee was instrumental in creating the Outer Space Treaty and the Moon Agreement, the two most relevant legal documents for our topic. The Outer Space Treaty provides the basic framework on international space law. Over 100 countries have ratified it. Maintaining international peace and security and promoting international cooperation are the underlying principles to the Outer Space Treaty. Weapons of mass destruction and the establishment of military bases are forbidden in space. Outer space belongs to all of us. Mining nor colonizing are regulated in the treaty, and least of all, terraforming. The Moon Agreement reinforces that space is an international area of common use. It foresees building on or below the surface of Mars and allows manned stations, so a settlement seems possible. The surface will always remain property of all countries on Earth, though the agreement is also more specific on the Martian environment. Terraforming is not allowed, nor can we contaminate Mars with our bacteria. That means setting up a colony is almost impossible. Space tourism is not mentioned as such in both regulations. If exploration of Mars is allowed, does this mean that tourism on Mars is allowed too? With the increase of private companies in space crafting, traveling to space might become more affordable in the near future. How to control it and make it environmentally responsible? This leads to the conclusion that for now international space law allows the exploration of Mars only. Space tourism and the exploitation of Martian resources is still uncertain. Setting up a self-sustaining settlement on Mars seems out of our reach. There is a third challenge, a more theoretical political one. Let us pretend international space law has been adopted to colonizing Mars, and we have a rocket and all other technical gear to send the first settlers to Mars. Who will go? First come, first serve? Who decides who will go? And then, when a colony on Mars is set up, who will govern it? Will the settlers themselves form a government out of their own people? Or will the settlement be governed by Earth? And what will happen if the settlers decide to cut connection with Earth? Final considerations. Is colonizing space a dream or a curse? I think it's a dream that will inevitably become a reality due to the human instinct towards exploration, as Kennedy already had predicted. Yet, in order to prevent it from becoming a curse, the UN will have to come up with an appropriate legal framework before we set foot on future colonies in space. In turn, politics will have to catch up with the logistics of future manned expeditions. And finally, my generation will have to prepare for this new era of colonization, as we could be the ones leading the charge in this monumental event in human history.